Awesome.
Um,
I'm on my sofa, so I'm just chilling out.
that's awesome. That's awesome. That's exactly the vibe that I want for this.
Yeah, nice.
So I want to start by telling you a little bit of how I actually got to meet you, or how
Mm,
to I got to know you from, and it was obviously from Instagram.
hmm.
And I remember it was like, I think like November, December last year, maybe like four or 6 months ago. And I was actually scrolling through Instagram looking for people. I actually like to see more people that do the same thing that I do, and talk to them, chat to them.
Yeah.
Um, and I remember, I don't even remember if your face was on the avatar back then, or if it was your logo. But I remember I stumbled upon you, and I was like, man, this guy does exact not exactly, but he makes logo, he makes identities. They look really good. He looks really young. And when I say young, I don't mean like a kid. I mean like my age.
Hmm.
He's not like 40 plus, that kind of a range. He looks really young. He looks really cool. And and I said, man, I'm gonna follow him. I'm gonna hit him up and see how things go. And I remember that it didn't pass 1 or 2 weeks, and you upload a small interview with James from Made by James. And I was like, oh, damn, I've been following James for years now. And I was like, this guy knows James. I have to keep my eye on him. And it didn't pass a month, and you upload another one with the other James from Bernarco. And I'm like, whoa, this guy, I really need to hit this guy up, because if he gets too famous, he's not gonna reply to me anymore.
No, but I mean that was like it's very lucky. So I did. I've worked with James, made by James, for like I think probably about coming up to a year, maybe longer than that, where I've known we like had calls and stuff, and like in a very like professional capacity, kind of just like helping me out on some things.
Hmm.
Um, and then we were having a call, and we kind of brainstormed the idea of me doing interviews with people, because I was so obsessed. I'm so obsessed with other designers, and I constantly find their work like really inspiring, but also terrifying. So I'm nowhere near that
Hmm.
level, and
Hmm.
I want to get there. And like some of the best ways is just to talk to them, and like I think like so sometimes that when you've got some of these designers that you look up to, and their work's like really intimidating, you kind of get starstruck by them a bit, and you don't kind of
Hmm.
see them as people. And
Yeah.
so I just like kind of reached out to a few. I mean, James offered to be the first one, and that was kind of the catalyst to get other people on. Was like, I've had Made by James on, so I'm not joking around. Like I've got a
Yeah.
really
Yeah. Yeah.
start. So, and then funnily enough, I think James Barnard actually followed me before I followed him, which was nuts.
That is interesting.
That was like I don't know how I didn't see it. I don't actually spend that much time scrolling, to be honest. But I somehow didn't see him, and then I saw. I was like, oh my god, this dude's a player. Like this guy's like huge. And followed him for a while, and then we had a couple. I think he commented on some things, and we like started a relationship a bit. And then I just like shot him a message and was like, "Do you want to come on?" He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." Had a really good chat with him, and then it's kind of just snowballed from there, really. And I'm getting,
That's awesome.
I want to get so many people on. There's so many people that I want to come on, and then I want to kind of grow it to a place where, I've had all of the major names on, and then I can start kind of giving back to some of the smaller creators that don't get as much love as they deserve. Is kind of the plan, because it's something that I wish that I could have the opportunity when I was a bit smaller, was to speak to these kind of people, but then also
Hmm.
like have someone in that kind of like middle range, which
Yeah.
hopefully where I want to get to, that can help me out on when I was on the lower end. So that's kind of the plan. Grow it massive, and then bring up other people is kind of the plan. But yeah,
That's amazing. I really love it. And for the people that don't know what you're talking about, it's Chit Chat, right? The name of the
yeah,
and I love the name. I absolutely love the name. It's
yeah.
perfect. It's like it's your name plus chat, and it's
Yeah, I can't take much credit for it, because basically, so when I was at school, I always used to get in trouble for talking too much, and so people used to they like every time I had like a report from my teachers to my parents, they would say you should change his name to Jack Chatty, because that's well, yeah, that was
that's
right.
what.
So I can't take too much credit for it, but yeah, it's a cool name.
I love it. I love it. It's a great name. So, before we get further in or too deep down the rabbit hole, because I really love uh, these conversations, I really like to start going back and knowing more of the past and a little bit of the background of the person I talked to,
Mhm.
because even though I do believe that the past doesn't define the person you are today, I really think it helps mold it. And I do believe that to understand better the person that you are today, I really need to know a little bit about the past and about who you are. So
Mm.
without going like really further, I would love for you to tell us about a little bit about who you are, like where you're from, who you are, and where do you think all of this started.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm Jack. Chitty is my last name. Chitty. And I am from England. I currently live in London. I haven't always lived in London. I kind of lived around London, but never right in the middle of it. And I've always been creative my whole life. I have always like designed things, made things, what have I, since I was a kid. Did lots, any kind of school curriculum, I would always try and do something creative, whether that was like graphic design or it was product design or art or design technology or anything like that. Anything that I kind of get my hands on. Um, and I just loved all of that stuff. And I spent my dad also was a design and technology teacher, and he's also quite creative. My mum's brother is very creative. He's an artist. So it's always kind of been around me. Um, and I've just always been obsessed with it. And so when I was turned like 17, 18, I think, is when I started trying to make businesses around creativity. Because when I was picking my degree to go to university with, I wanted to do a creative field, but I was worried that I wouldn't be good enough, and that if I was good enough to get a job, it meant I couldn't do anything else. I had to be a designer for the rest of my life. And at the time, I didn't know that I wanted to do that. So I did English instead. English language and linguistics was
Hmm.
my specific degree, which is kind of like the study of language and the importance of it and the history of it and certain ways to create certain sounds and how sounds vary in different languages and things like that. And I actually found it really, really fascinating, and I did quite well. And yeah, so when I was at uni, I spent all my spare time creating and failing with loads of different creative businesses. So I like sold art, I designed tattoos for people, I did t-shirt designs, I did anything and anything that anyone wanted, I would try
Hmm.
and do. And I just made no money. It was taking so much of my time to do, that like my studies would start to slip because I was spending too much time on it. And so I kind of parked it, finished my degree, and then came the point of weighing up, what do I want to do professionally? What does my job want to be? And so I thought, like, well, a creative person and someone who's good at English or good at communicating or language surely means advertising. And so I started applying for advertising jobs, and I applied to loads of places. One place that it stood out to me was a place called Good Stuff, which was a media agency who did everything from like planning ad campaigns to buying the actual media and loads of other things.
Hmm.
And I started there in their sort of graduate program, and loved it. It was like a really family feel. I absolutely loved that agency, and have like really fond memories of it now. And I kind of worked my way up from junior to a manager level. But over that time, there was like a really impactful thing that happened to my health that meant that I wanted to revisit what I was doing. So
Hmm.
in October 2019, I was going to the gym to rehab a dislocated shoulder. And so I was like, yes, the point of the physio was supposed to be increasing the weight slowly and gradually, and then eventually I would get full range of motion back in my shoulder, and then I'll be back to full fit. And so I was doing that as I was told by my physio, and picked up a weight that was a little bit heavier. That was kind of the plan. And I felt a warm dribble of water down the back of my neck, even though I just got there. and I was like, it felt really strange. I touched the back of my hair, it was dry, and I was like, that feels really strange. I started to feel a little bit off, and I thought that maybe today is just not the day to
Mm-hmm.
work out. So I left the gym, was going back to my car. I started feeling really dizzy, um, and getting really hot, and then I was sick everywhere. And so at that time, I lived with my parents. So I called my dad and I said, I don't feel well enough to drive home.
Mm-hmm.
Can you come pick me up? And on after I got off the phone with him, I was sick again. I was getting really, really hot to the point where I took my clothes off, basically just to like
Wow.
lie on the floor because I was so
Mm-hmm.
hot. I wanted to lie on the cold floor. So I laid down outside my car, being sick. My head started to really, really hurt. It kind of felt like my brain was getting increasingly bigger, and my skull couldn't keep it in anymore. It felt like there was so
Wow.
much pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I called an ambulance myself because I thought that I don't think there was a moment where I thought like, oh, this is really bad. So I called an ambulance. I fell unconscious whilst I was on the phone to the ambulance, and then woke up in hospital. This is now I don't remember any of this bit. Like since I passed out, I don't remember any of it. This is what I've been told. But I
Mm-hmm.
was passed out. I woke up in the hospital, in my local hospital, and I told everyone that I was in a fight. I said that you need to go and find the other guy because he's in a worse way than I am. Like I've beat you. And my parents were like, "There's no way. He was in the gym. He wasn't in a fight." And I'm like, "No, no, no. Trust me, trust me. Like I beat this guy up." Um, and so then, just by chance, a nurse had walked past the room that I was being seen in, and she said, "Did you? Are you telling me that he wasn't in a fight, but he keeps saying he was?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly." And they're like, "Okay, let's call Oxford, which is a place sort of close to where I was at the time, who is specialised in neuro, so in brain situations."
Mm-hmm.
So they had already kind of diagnosed me as it was a concussion. He'll be fine in a few weeks, whatever. But they called up Oxford and they said, get him here immediately. So I went back in an ambulance all the way to Oxford. And then I was immediately seen, had scans done, and I had had a brain aneurysm,
Oh,
which is where
damn.
a blood vessel in my brain kind of it popped and there's blood inside my brain. And like that
Wow.
is such a like a cognitive head fuck, really. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
hard. The feeling of dizziness, you just can't describe it. It is the world is completely spinning. Your head feels in so much pressure. It's the most pain ever. Um, and so then I had lots of surgery was the next plan, and because I was an adult at the time, I was 23. I had to make sure that I was like signing to do the procedures, do the surgeries. But I was off my head on all these drugs that they were giving me. Like I was so like out of it, and I couldn't sign anything. So I was like fingerprinting stuff. I was just
Damn.
scribbling. Um, but yeah, so they did the first surgery, which is there's a scar here, and I have two train track scars that go down the top of my head. Which when I go bald, I'm gonna look so bad because it's gonna
Dude,
get massive
you're gonna
scars.
look badass is what you're gonna look.
It's gonna look like I was in a
You
kitchen.
can accompany those with some tattoos, and man, you're gonna look awesome.
I look badass. But if I could have a beard like you, that would look cool. But like, I can't grow a good beard, man. I just could grow a neck one. It'd be rubbish. Um, so they did the first surgery, wasn't successful. So what they had to do was they had to cut down this side to get into under the skull into the brain, and then they also had to cut here to drain out all of the fluid because the issue was back here. And it failed. And then they tried again, and it failed. And then they tried again, and it failed. And so, like every single time that they tried the surgery, it like was more impactful on my physical being. It was messing up my skull. It was messing up my side of my head. So they were
Hmm.
like, if we try it one more time, it has to be from this side and go all the way around, which would be a much harder operation to do successfully, and it was like way risky. I think it was a 20% chance of surviving it.
Damn.
Um, and so yeah, they came to my parents and me, and they're like, "What do you want to do?" And I'm like, I was off my head. I don't remember any of it. I was completely, I was barely there. But like my parents were like, what other choice do we have? Like it's either we try it again or I die. And so they tried again, and they would they're just the most magical people, and the most talented people at this hospital. They're the person that did my surgery was Dr. Young, and she is one of 20, I think, that could do that surgery in the
Wow.
country. And she did it, and I'm here today. And so there was a lot of long story short, long story long maybe, but there was a lot of recovery after that. I spent the next month in hospital, just recovering and learning to walk again and things like that. And kind of once you got over those initial things was when I kind of had a lot of time to myself to think, and just thought, I don't know if I want to do media anymore, advertising. I don't know if this is for me. And I've been spending my whole life doing creative things, and I wasn't fulfilling that anymore. So I thought, like, well, this is what I want to do. I want to try and be creative again, and scratch that creative itch. And so whilst I was recovering, I was doing just trying different bits of design. Like I was doing album artwork for some people. I was doing like merch and things and that, or loads of different things, some art. And then I stumbled across the 30-day logo core logo challenge,
Mm-hmm.
where you sign a logo every single day for 30 days. And I thought, yeah, I mean, I've got 30 days. Let's just do that. I,
Let's do
I,
it.
I did that and just fell in love with it. I mean, some of it is still on my Instagram if you scroll all the way down, and they're rubbish. They're really bad. I think some of the really bad ones I deleted, but some of the ones I like, it's quite nice to see like the growth from like some of the bad
Mm-hmm.
ones to what we're doing now. But so yeah, I did that for a while, and I just fell deeply, deeply and madly in love with logo design and branding, or brand identity more specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then just realized that I really wanted to do this, but there's no way anyone was going to hire me. I didn't have any qualification in design. I didn't have any experience in design. I didn't have a portfolio. All I had was that I wanted to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so then I was like, right, well, then this is not going to be an overnight thing. This is going to be something that I need to spend a lot of time working towards. So over the next year or so was when I started. Well, at that time is when I started the Instagram page that I have now, under a different name, but the same Instagram page. And I started posting my work. I told every single person that I knew who would listen to me that I'm a graphic designer now, and if you need any help, I'll do it for free. I'll do it for whatever you want to pay me, whatever. Like I just want it. I just want work. And I was doing bits for friends, and then friends of friends, and constantly posting work. And then eventually I got someone who I didn't know messaged me and said like they wanted me to design their football badge, and I was just like, this is mad. Like that was so exciting. I
This
was so
is it.
yeah. I was like, this is my break. It was so exciting.
Yeah.
I was so nervous because like I'd done stuff for my friends and it'd be free, and I'm like, well, you can't be that angry with me if you didn't pay for it. So like, if it was
Mm-hmm.
really bad,
Mm-hmm.
you can't pay for it. So it's fine. But these people wanted to pay me some money for it, and I was just so nervous. I spent so much time on it to make sure that it was perfect. It probably took me like 2-3 months, maybe longer, to
Whoa.
like spend. I spent so much time on it. I was so nervous that it was going to be rubbish, and they'd be angry at me because they gave me money.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like it kept kind of going like that, and I kept doing like odd jobs for people, some paid, some not. With the whole goal was to create a portfolio to then apply to a design agency,
Mm-hmm.
and it got to that point where I had just got promoted to manager in my advertising role, and whilst all this was going on in the background, and then I packaged everything up and I started applying, and I applied for, no joke, at least 80 places, maybe over 100.
Mm-hmm.
And I got no's from everyone except for like four people who interviewed me, and then very quickly were like, we no, not good enough, or we don't like the way that you do this, or you don't have any qualifications or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. And then there was one guy called Ben who was like, yeah, we like you, come and join. And I joined them, and I was an in-house designer, so it wasn't for a design agency, but I was and doing everything, all of their branded stuff. I was sort of responsible for, which was like also quite crazy, was because it wasn't like a junior design role. It
Mm-hmm.
was. a like purebred graphic designer, which is like also mad. And going into that process as well was like another thing that was quite scary was obviously I'd been promoted several times at my advertising agency, which obviously comes with more money. And
Hmm.
then to go to make that decision from getting paid this to be like, I don't mind being paid this if it means the thing that I want to do. But thankfully, ended up getting paid the same, which was just
That's
like
awesome.
an absolute got so lucky. Um, but then, so yeah, I worked there for about a year, um, and then I was made redundant. The role I didn't have much work to do towards the end, so I was made redundant, and I was kind of like, oh no, what do I do now? Because I'd spent all this time getting to that point to then
Hmm.
be taken away, and I was like, I don't know what. And also, the whole time I'm still doing Chitco stuff. I'm still growing that, so I never stopped doing it since the day I started doing logos till now. I have not stopped doing it, so it's always going on. And the goal was always to run my own show, like to be self-employed, to just work on Chitco stuff. And then it kind of came, that crossroads was I can go and apply for other jobs, and try and get into a design role, or I can try and give Chitco a go. And like that was initially, I was like, "There's no way I can do that. I'm not ready.
Hmm.
I'm too scared. I'm so scared of risk. There's no way I could do it." And I started applying for design roles, and funnily enough, getting way more attention this time than when I was when I was applying the first time, because I had design experience and obviously I'd built Chitco further. So I was getting way more attention, and having more interviews. And I got to the final interview at a few places, and they would ask me questions like, what do you plan on doing over the next few years? Where do you see yourself? And I didn't want to lie. So I was like, well, honestly, not working with you, like being self-employed and running my own show. And they're like, okay,
Uh-huh.
we don't want to work with you then. Like, it was so fair. Like,
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to lie, but I kind of sort of did to get to that point. And then I realized that
Hmm.
once I was getting to the point of like potentially they were going to offer me the job, I was like, I felt bad that you're not going to get 100% of me. I'm always going to be doing bits on the side. I'm always
Hmm.
going to be trying to grow this so it's bigger than this. Um, and so I felt it kind of became a more of a moral dilemma than a financial one, really. And so I was like, I did it. I was applying for a couple of months, and then after some of these interviews, when I felt kind of bad about, I don't think you should. I don't think you should hire me because I'm not going to be not going to be there for you. I'm not going to give you 100%. Then I was like, okay, well, fuck it. I'm going to try and make Chico work, and that was in November last year, and I can still pay to eat at the moment, so we're doing
That's
okay.
awesome.
But yeah, sorry, I've been speaking forever on that, so sorry. That was a
I
massive,
love it. No,
massive
no,
story.
no.
There you go.
I love it. I love it. And you say I love that you say a lot because I have my notes here that I want to go through.
Oh, cool.
Because I think there are certain parts of your whole story that I think are really important, and I would love to get a little bit of that. So back when you had your surgeries, you
Mm,
had three failed surgeries,
yeah.
and then the fourth one, which was the most complicated one. Um, it went through and it went great. Um, so first thing first, don't lie to your doctors, guys. If you're
Yeah.
in a position like this, it's on your best interest to don't lie to your
Don't
doctors.
try and be funny. Don't make your doctors laugh. They don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah, they don't
laugh.
want to laugh.
No, they don't want to laugh. They just want to get you out.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah.
make jokes. Don't make jokes.
So uh, I believe that with a story like that, you are a miracle child. You are a miracle, pretty much.
Well, yeah, I think like biologically, I mean, the chances of surviving that was really slim. But it's because I was 23. Like that specific brain aneurysm usually happens when
Hmm.
you're 50, 60, and barely anyone survives those. And weirdly, there have been two people that I've known since I had mine who have had the same thing I had and died.
Damn.
So it was very lucky, and it was purely because I was so young,
And
really.
and that's the thing that I want to touch on. With chances of surviving being that slim, 20% is really low. I wouldn't take any risk at
Yeah.
20% chance.
Yeah.
What kind of thoughts were on your head at that moment?
Well, it sounds strange, but I got so comfortable with the idea of dying. It was not scary. And I've kind of told everyone who's close to me since then was that when your time does come and you know it's coming, it's not scary. It's actually like quite weirdly peaceful.
Okay.
Um, and you kind of just like you have that kind of conversation with yourself, and me, I don't know, it might not be the same for everyone, but for me, like I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had this conversation with myself. I was like, if I do die now, am I happy with the person that dies? Like, am I proud of the things I've done, or like, am I happy with who I am as a like my attributes or skill sets? Whatever, am I happy with that? And I was happy with the person that I was, but I wasn't happy with the things that I had done. I hadn't done all the things I wanted to do, but
Mm-hmm.
I was like, it's not up to me. It's just my time. And weirdly, like when I was younger, much younger, like in my early teens, I always thought that I was going to die young, and I didn't know why.
Really?
I always had that kind of weird feeling in the back of my mind. I thought I had a really, really lucky and blessed childhood, great friends, great family, and I thought like this just seems like too good to be true. And I thought like I think it's going to be taken away at some point
No,
soon. It's
come
such a
on.
strange feeling, but I thought that I was going to die when I was young, and then when that all happened, yeah, I was like, I was right. I had the feeling, and yeah, it's just strange. I was so at peace with it and so calm, but it was really stressful seeing people around you
Mm-hmm.
like come and see you, and that for all they think it's the last time they're going to see you, and that was tough. But peace was the largest feeling that I had at that time.
They say that life is pretty much about perspective. And when you have a 20% chance of surviving, I can see how the perspective on your life can shift and change.
Mm,
Um, Things that yesterday matter really less today, and things that are important aren't. And pretty much your priorities shift, I think, in a way. This is me believing because I haven't been in in a position like that. But
mm.
in that moment, what did you discover about yourself?
I think I discovered that I was capable of much more than I thought I was. Which is strange to say, really, because I had no real evidence that I was capable of anything else. But it was, I thought like, if I get out of it, out of this
Hmm.
situation, nothing is going to stop me from getting to becoming what I want to be, which is like at the time, like selfishly, was I want to be a full time designer creating logos for people all
Hmm.
around the world, and I'm the boss. That's what I wanted, and as I'm not stopping at anything until I get it. Um, and that kind of like desperate bottom of the bucket motivation that you get from those
Yeah.
situations, like I think about it all the time. Like there isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about um, how my brain's doing, because when you have a brain injury, you have a really, really particular sense of the feeling of how it's doing. Like, not honestly, like 2 weeks ago, I was in A&E for the same problem, um, and I'm just so self aware of if my brain's feeling good, if it's feeling bad.
Hmm.
And when I went to A&E a couple of weeks ago, um, I I got there saying I'm either having a stroke or I'm having a brain aneurysm, and I need a CT scan immediately. And they're like, "Well, let me talk to you." I'm like, "No, you don't. Like, I know exactly what this feels like.
Hmm. Hmm.
Trust me. I know I'm not trying to do your job, but like, just trust me. Like, something's going on up there."
Yeah, yeah.
And I know I was right. Like, I had a really small stroke, and it wasn't. I had to really push for it to get it. But like,
Hmm.
my point being is like I'm so aware of how my brain feels now, um so I never forget it, and it because of that, and therefore I also never forget the goal that I want to get to, or the motivation I have to get there. It's always kind of front of mind, which is kind of handy on those days that you don't really want to do much. um so it's nice having that kind of motivation in the
Yeah.
background. from a bit of a weird cause, but it's really helpful in that regard.
It's very interesting because uh, your response to how you were feeling back then, knowing that you have a very slim chance of getting through it, it's not what I expected. I was expecting desperation and
Mm,
feeling uneasy, and all of those negative kind of feelings. And
yeah.
you were calm and
But I wouldn't say that like that's really my personality. Like I think I if before that, if I imagined what that situation would be like, I imagine it would have been very stressful. I
Mhm.
would have barely been sleeping. I would be very anxious all the time. But for some reason or another, I just wasn't. Like it's just very. It was just calm. It was calm and it was peaceful. And also like when you're in that kind of life and death situation, and you really are giving your life in someone else's hands. You're like,
Mhm.
you know what to do with me, and you just put this like unwithering faith into someone else's hands who you don't know, and that like vulnerability of giving someone your life, you don't know if they're
Mhm.
gonna do well or not,
Yeah.
um, is very. It's kind of lovely. It's very peaceful, and you're kind of just like, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just
yeah.
it was weirdly a lovely experience, and I would never take it back. I'm so glad that it happened. Um, so yeah, and I reckon wherever I end up in terms of career, it will be because of that. So I love that it happened.
Well,
Weirdly,
well, I'm very happy that it went well. I'm super
yeah.
happy that you're here with us, alive
Thank
and well.
thank you.
Um, and you
Mm,
said something that really caught my attention when you start working as a graphic designer and making logos. And you said that at first, not only did you tell everyone, but you were happy to work for free on the
mhm,
first designs that you were so you had no studies on. The only thing that you had was pure free will of
yeah.
saying, I want to do this. And you were glad to work for free if that meant getting you to another step on the stair of becoming that person that you want to be. And I think it's really important because I see it a lot on this world of graphic design and in this market, that everyone wants to charge more. Everyone wants to be um, a person that they are not yet, and no one is willing to put skin in the game. No one is willing to do work for free. No one is willing to take a mentor and work for him for a time to learn. No one is willing to sacrifice just a little bit at the beginning if that means getting a whole lot for your person and for your profession.
Mm,
Can you tell me a little bit about how it went on those first days, on those first months of graphic design, and
mm,
and a little bit about your story on that?
yeah. I totally agree with you. I think the kind of the uprising of social media and people just flexing like how much money they make or the car they've bought or whatever, and this seeming overnight success, it is quite, I imagine, for younger designers or younger anyone in a field, like whatever
Mm-hmm.
field that you're in, if you're seeing someone make all this money overnight, I can understand why it'd be frustrating to be like, why can't I do that?
Mm-hmm.
Why were they so lucky or whatever? And I'd say like probably 90% of the time it's fake. Like they probably rent the car or fake money or whatever. But in terms of like free work, I think I still do it now sometimes. If like I get really excited by the people or the brand and they don't have any budget, but they really wanted to work with me specifically, then I'd love to do those kind of things because like same reason. Like I constantly think about my brain. I constantly think about the motivation and to get to where I want to be. And I'm way further along that line now than I was then. And when I think look back to then, like even today, like you interviewing me, I told you earlier, this is the first interview I ever had, and I had dreams of being interviewed one day
That's awesome.
about design. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
like it's such a crazy situation. And so if someone like likes my specific work that much and they only want to work with me, there's a million other logo designers, but if they want to work with me, like that is just such an amazing feeling that someone wants to work with me specifically. And so I'll try and make those work. And I think with free work at the beginning, it's very important to understand what being self-aware is difficult, and it's so vital to understand where you're at in your career, in the field, how clients view you, and understanding that. Because if you think that you can just rock up out of bed one day and like, I'm a graphic designer now, and think you're going to charge 10 grand for a logo, no chance. Like no chance. If
You're
someone pays you
tripping.
if someone pays you that, they've got more money than sense. Like that,
Yeah.
you can't just wake up and do that.
Yeah.
So as you said, you need to put some skin in the game. You need to invest time. It's not a craft that you can just decide you want to do. Like, even though I decided I wanted to do it, every single day I'm trying to get better. I'm still nowhere near where I want to be, but you have to understand how your actual skill set, how good actually are you. And like, this is on the flip side of social media, the benefit of it. You get to see people who are 10 years further along the line than you, and you
Hmm.
get to see like, okay, do I want to be there? Do I want to be there? Do I want to be over here? You get to see almost like loads of different roadmaps to where you could go from now through other people.
Yeah.
So you can use that to get a perspective as to where you're at. But free work is great. And also, on the flip side, actually, on free work though, is in my experience, the clients that pay less are the hardest to work with. They are more kind of managey. They
Hmm.
want to manage every single process. They want you to do the work in the way that they want you to do the work, rather
Hmm.
than the way that you do it. Um, they tend to be the more challenging and the more picky. But you can find some great people, like some non-profits, some charities, some great brands that you can do work for free and feel great about, and work with some awesome people who aren't micromanaging. But you might get
Hmm.
some of those. But they're also like those experiences are so valuable. Like, you're never going to go through a whole career having beautiful clients
Hmm.
time. You're going to have some people that are challenging to work with, and they make the rest of your client experience with other clients even better, because you understand how to
Hmm.
work relationships, you understand how to communicate, how to talk to these people. So it's very valuable to do free work, even though it may be tough at the beginning. But make sure you're in a space where you can, like, maybe you got
Yeah.
another job and it's something that you can do on the side. Do it for you because you love it. Don't do it for the money.
A little while ago, you said you work 4 years in advertising and you made an English degree in linguistics. Did that experience help you out when it comes to communicating better with clients or making better copy or making your words sound better?
Yeah, I think so. Well, not so much in terms of copywriting, but through my degree, I did a lot of presenting. And then in advertising, I was presenting 4 or 5 times a week to clients with like multi-million pound brands, like
Hmm.
really expensive brands, really like really high end people in the room as well, like CEOs, CFOs, like really important people. And presenting every single week multiple times, you do get more comfortable with presenting, and that's vital. So I guess, like, well, it's vital in the way that I run my business. There's a lot of designers who, well, if they're doing a logo project, they'll design the logo, put it into a presentation, like a keynote or like a PDF or whatever, and just email it to a client with some commentary, with some text with it. And I don't do that. I present every single design that I have ever done and ever will do. I will always present. I think it's so vital to get a feel for someone, to read their reaction to something, and you can
Hmm.
change the course of a presentation based on how someone's reacted to something, or you can show them additional things that they have maybe asked during the presentation. Like, it's so, for me, it's so beneficial having that relationship with someone and doing it as a presentation. So because of that, I'm so glad that I worked in advertising, because I was able to present all the time and not be so scared to do it, because it can be really scary, especially in design, when you've put so much of your heart and soul into a piece of work,
Yeah.
and it's kind of a reflection of you,
Hmm.
and then someone to just be like, it's shit, I don't like it, and they can say that on email, because they're not saying it to your face. They're
Mm-hmm.
saying it on email, just going out, and then they're not going to see your reaction. But very rarely is someone going to say, "This is shit, I don't like it," to your face in a
Yeah.
presentation. They're going to be much more kinder, and you're like, having that human element of it is so nice. It shouldn't be transactional. So I love presenting, and I found that love through working in advertising. So that was a major skill that I learned from that time. And also, there's loads of other things. Like I was working with loads of different clients then. So I was working with big brands, and I got to understand client relationships, client management, budgeting, invoicing, frequency of deliverables, and all of that stuff. Like I learned the tricks of the trade in managing other people in a professional capacity then, so I didn't have to do it so much in my freelance life. So I learned. So there were so many transferable skills. I actually didn't realize, like when I was in hospital, thinking like I just wasted the last 3 years working in marketing. Um, and it wasn't until I like started doing cheat code properly that I was like, this is so easy because half of it is that stuff. And I didn't realize
Yeah.
that actually half of those skills that I learned then was really, really beneficial to the success that I will get to or am having now. So really, really helpful, but not so much copywriting. I just use Chat GPT for that now.
Yes, yes. I can really relate to that. I think the last policy that I wrote about deliverables and revisions, ChatGPT helped me out, and it looks great. It's bulletproof.
It's so helpful. Like it's not, I don't think anyone uses it in the way of just putting in, write this for me, and then they just copy and paste it and run with it. No, like
Hmm.
people are getting that and they're like, oh, this is a good starting point, and then they kind of like work.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's a good tool. That's what I
It's
use
a
now.
great tool.
It's a
Yeah.
great tool. Yeah.
Okay, so here's the thing. We cannot finish this interview, and we're not even halfway there, I think, before talking about what the people want to know. And the
Okay.
number one question that we probably get all the time, it's how to get more clients.
Yeah.
So Jack, tell me,
What's the
how
secret?
how how yeah, how do you usually get your clients?
So most of my clients, well, all of my clients will find me online. They'll find me through social or my website. Um, but how do you get people to find you and to want to work with you? And it kind of goes back to what I was speaking about earlier. Is like when I started design, I told everyone, like, and that is where I would start. If you're like kind of at this first stages of becoming a designer or in any field, and you need clients, it's just telling everyone. Like word of mouth is the best form of advertising. If you can just tell everyone, they might tell their friends, who tell their friends, who tell their friends, and that's the best way to start. Um, and then from that, constantly, well, not constantly, consistently posting across social,
Hmm.
because social media is, I know people bash it a lot, but you have access to 70% of the world for free.
Hmm.
If you can market your stuff well, you can speak to 70% of the world, basically, maybe more. Um, so I know people like have a bad relationship with social media, but if you see it as a marketing tool, which is kind of what it is now, like
Hmm.
the owners of social media platforms, they buy and sell in attention. That's their
Yeah.
currency. So if you can you're trying to give them their currency. So if you can keep people on the app, you're doing their job for them. They're going to
Hmm.
then push your content to more people.
Yeah.
So just do what they tell you. If they bring out a new feature, try the new feature. Like when Reels came out, try Reels. Like those kind of things. Like do the things that the social media want you to do, and then that will broaden your reach, and you'll get in front of more eyeballs. And while considering you have been consistently posting really good work over this time, and you keep trying new things, and you keep posting, the net widens, you broaden your horizons, you reach more people, and the chances are that some of those are going to be people who want to give you money for the thing that you've done, for the thing that they've
Hmm.
seen. And then they will hit you up in the DMs, or they'll find you on a website, and then they will hopefully work with you. But it's a constant. No, I keep saying constant. It's not constant. It's a consistent effort. It
Hmm.
is a thing that you can't let slide. Like I have been posting at least 3 times a week for the last 2 years across social media, and like I'm if saying that sounds daunting, like all you have to do is post 3 times a week for 2 years. That's a lot of work to do. It's a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and if you looked at like my social media, you might think that for that amount of effort, I would want to be higher up. I want to have more followers. I want to have more likes, comments, whatever. But at the end of the day, they don't pay the bills. What you want to do is get reach,
Mm-hmm.
get more people who might give you money for your work.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah, I think I just drift all over the place there. Now.
It's fine. It's fine. And I think you answer it a little bit, but what kind of actionable steps can someone take
Okay.
in your perspective to
Mm,
be able to get clients if they're not getting any clients?
got you. Well, definitely, like underneath every bit of advice that I would say, make sure you're posting work. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you cold call someone, cold email someone, say you want to work with them, and then they go on your website, you've got no work, you're never going to get that sale.
Yeah.
So make sure that you have work and make sure you're posting regularly. People need to know that you are present. They need to know that you're available. They need to know that you're putting the effort in on yourself,
Mm-hmm.
so that they know that you'll do it for them too. So make sure you're posting work is a given. Um, there's loads of different platforms that are specific for freelancing. So you have things like Dribble, you have Upwork, even things like Fiverr. I'm not a massive fan of Fiverr personally, but yeah, Upwork I've heard is okay. Dribble as well. Places where there is literally people come to Dribble with wanting to work with someone, and then you've been posting work, and then you come together. It's more about that connection, that kind of professional connection, than say Instagram or Facebook is. That's more of like a uh, there's more purpose behind a Dribble connection,
Mm-hmm.
or LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a good place as well. You got access to a wide range of people, professionals who might need work. So there are specific platforms that you should make sure that you are considering. So things like Dribble and what have you, and LinkedIn. Um, like I know that cold calling and cold emailing gets a bad rap, but it can be really effective. I've done it a few times, which has had like moderate success, but also like local places. Like if you live in like a small town or a small village or what have you, like you might have a bakery or a supermarket or something who may be like a family run thing who you can just drop them an email, be like, I'm a logo designer in the area, I've shopped with you for ages, love your work, whatever, and love to work together potentially. And then you can start a relationship, and trying not to make that relationship too transactional too quickly
Mm-hmm.
is important. You don't just want to like cold email someone and say, I charge £1 million, do you want it, yes or no? It's quite,
Yeah.
that's very cold, like
Yeah,
butter,
very
butter them
cold.
up. Butter them up a little bit.
That's almost trash can cold.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, cold calling is an option, but also it's worth, if you have had clients, the best clients are the ones that you can keep. They cost the less amount of effort to keep because they already know you, they already
Mm-hmm.
trust your work. So reaching out to previous clients, I always, after 3 months of finishing a project with someone, I'll reach back out just to say like, how are you getting on with all the stuff? Are you enjoying it? What's the reception been like with your audience? And then after that, I'll message them every 6 months just to check in, just like, how you doing? I've just been updating my portfolio, maybe just saw the work that we did together. I loved it. Just wanted to check in, see how you're doing. Those kind of things that like they're really genuine questions. You want to
Mm-hmm.
know like how their business is done since the work that you've done for them. And then often they might hit you back and be like, "Oh, so glad you've messaged me because I've been wanting to do this. I want to get this sign done or this mural done or
Mm-hmm.
this piece of advertising done, and I wondered if you did something like that." Yes, I do. And then it's a way easier conversion than the cold calls. So yeah, cold calling is interesting. Consider those social medias, the things like Dribbles, LinkedIn's, etc., and reaching out to past clients, and making sure that you're building relationships, is something that I've focused on since I started. Was I don't just want to be known as someone who pumps out design work for a price. I don't want to be transactional. I
Mm-hmm.
want it to be like we're a team in this. Like that's
Yeah.
what part of the reason why I do presentations. Like I want to feel like a partner to your business and not just someone you've temporarily hired. Like I want to be a part of the process. I want to be part of your business, part of your brand. Um, and if you just build relationships over time, like people are going to recommend you. Oh, another tip actually is, for previous clients, once I finish in that kind of last wrap up email, once we finish the project, I'll say I offer a finder's fee. If you can put me in contact with someone who converts for me and we work together, I'm going to give you X percentage of that sale. And so they kind
That's
of
a good
become,
tactic. Yeah.
yeah, they kind of become these, they can almost work for you in a weird way because you're going to
Mm-hmm.
give them
Mm-hmm.
money for finding you leads. So they're kind of like this little lead generator for you. And because they've had a good experience with you, that conversation with someone else that they know is going to be so easy. If it,
Mm-hmm.
as I said, going back to what I said earlier, word of mouth is the most powerful form of advertising. And if you can
Yes.
get someone to recommend you with glowing words and a glowing review,
Mm-hmm.
that's an easy sale. It's an easy sale.
Yes.
So hopefully there's a few points there that will be helpful to someone.
No, that's awesome. Those were amazing. From what you've seen on social media and on the market, why do you think designers struggle to get clients? What is it about the work they're doing that you think is like, maybe you need this, or maybe you need that, or I see that a lot of people do this that probably shouldn't be doing or shouldn't be doing differently?
Um, I haven't thought about that in great detail, but a thought that has popped up would be that I think some people focus, they think that the work is what people are buying. And
Okay.
there are, as I said, there are a million other logo designers.
Mm-hmm.
How do I get work? Because it's not just about the output. It's like you can get that anywhere, and you could get that anywhere and probably cheaper. Like
Mm-hmm.
you, it's about the experience you give your clients, and your clients are paying for your brain. They're paying for the way that you think. And if you're just sharing across social the end product, it's hard for people to invest into you because they're just seeing like I totally respects your skill set. You're very good at creating this type of thing, but if you show them where it started, this little shitty sketch that I did on a post-it note at 4 in the morning, like, and then you see it developed up into this sketch and then onto the computer, and then it got blown out into these mock-ups, or you share some of the brief, some of the ideation, some of the word mapping, some of the analysis of competitors or the industry. If you share all of that thinking around the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
it's way more interesting to someone. Like, because there's some you can see. So, for example, literally the last couple of days, when we've seen the new World Cup logo for the
Yes.
American World Cup, that has
Mm-hmm.
been received really, really mixed reviews, and we're just seeing the output. We're just seeing the final thing, and people are
Mm-hmm.
judging it based on that.
Yeah.
If you got the brief whoever that agency was that got that brief, you might have come up with the same thing. Like you don't know the background, you don't know the work that went into it to get to that point. So to judge something just on the output is really hard. Like it's really silly. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can't judge someone's creativity based on just that output. You need to know all of the background. So if you share some of that, you share some of your process, then people understand what it is like to work with you, and it's a way easier sell to be like they've been a part of other people's design journeys by seeing it across
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
social, and so it's really easy um to do that, to share that stuff, and then people can relate to you and know what it's like to work with you because they're not buying the output, they're buying your brain, they're buying the process, they're buying their experience. So yeah.
What do clients usually want and designers fail to comprehend?
Oh, what do clients usually want and designers fail to comprehend? I think clients want to be understood. They want to know that their brief, their challenge has been totally understood and comprehended, and that it's in safe hands. And I think maybe sometimes designers might jump straight to a solution that they haven't done that work with the client to get to. So, for example, like when I do my presentation to my clients, I present it as if they were in the room standing behind me the whole time that I was making it. So
Mm-hmm.
I start off by like, this is what I was doing when I broke down the brief. And then we go through those slides together and then we're like, yeah, okay, I understand why you thought that way. And then we go into word mapping and we're like, yeah, okay, I'm with you, understand. And then so I'm building the story step by step until I get to the logo or whatever the project is.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have felt that they've almost created that with you. And I think they might want a partnership. I mean, the clients I work with love the partnership angle of it. Like, it really feels like we have made decisions together, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not that I've given you this much money and you've given me this thing, which feels quite cold. If you bring them on the journey with you, it can feel that they have making the decisions. And sometimes, that's really helpful if you're working with like a senior project lead or something, and they need to pitch this work into a CEO. They feel like they've been a part of the whole thing. They can
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
relay it to the CEO as if they are presenting your work like you did to them. So I think they want to feel part of it. I think they want to feel understood and in safe hands, um, and not just that it's just about the output. It's about the whole thing. And so maybe that I've never considered that question, but that's where I would say. Because I think they want partnership, and maybe
That
some people don't see that.
that's awesome. You talked about presentation and you said a little bit about word mapping and a little bit about the briefing. Can you
Mm,
can you talk to us about a little bit about your process? How do you
yeah.
usually work on your projects?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like process is so up for debate, and there's so many people that do it so differently. There
Mm-hmm.
is no right or wrong way to do it. Whatever works best for you is the best way to do it. I do have a lot of information about my process on my website if anyone wants to look at it in detail. So essentially, what I do is a 6-step process, and I've got to that. Just by time. Like, I'm constantly trying to refine it. I'm constantly trying to improve it, make things more efficient. But I always start off with a call with the client. This will be to understand the full scope of the project. Sometimes a client might think they just want a logo, but in actual fact, they need an identity. They need
Mm-hmm.
some guidelines. They need some assets. It can end up being a much bigger project than they may have foreseen. So I get on a call with the client to fully hash out the full scope of the project, what it is that they actually need, what it's for. Um, and then once we've done all the contractual stuff, signing off budgets, scope of work, and all of that stuff, is when I get the brief. And I always push for the brief to come with a mood board as well. I know that a lot of designers will make their own mood boards and then get those individually approved by the client. I think skip that process, save some time, and get the client to pull it together for you.
Okay.
Because if they put it together rather than signed off your mood board,
Mm-hmm.
if it comes to a point where they're like, "This is not what I wanted you to do," like, this was the mood board you sent me.
Mm-hmm.
So they can't contradict themselves as easy as they could if you've done the mood board. So I think, and also saves you time. So I asked for a mood board as well, and on the flip side, they also are part of the process too. So they feel like they're like,
Yes,
I'm
yes.
in this. Okay,
That's
I'm going to do something.
exactly what I was thinking. That helps
Yeah,
them be part of the process.
yeah. It's like I get to be creative too. This is wicked. Okay, I'm part of that, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeding information that's going to be reflected in the outcome, and I feel part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that massive benefit too. So I'll get the brief and I'll get the mood board, and I read the brief all the way through without making any notes. First, I read it as if I'm like reading a book or an article. And then I'll go back through. I'll take a break, and then I'll go back through it with a highlighter and start highlighting keywords, things that I think stand out or make the brand unique, or potentially something that can be visually represented. Just highlight some things that stand out to me, and then I will go into word mapping. So I haven't looked at any competitor stuff yet, any industry stuff. I'm just focusing on what they've told me, and I'll go into word mapping. So I'll take some of those keywords that I highlighted, put them into a word map, and then I'll put a time limit on for about 10-15 minutes, and I'll start just adding words that are related to these words that came from the brief, trying to exhaust this list as much as possible. Either the time limit runs out or I can't think of any more words. And sometimes I'll do it I'll try and find words that have visual representations. So you can have like nouns, so like sun, love, heart, like hands, whatever. But sometimes it will be feelings or things that are less possible to communicate visually.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be just like a sense or like a vibe that I want to try and distill in the final work. So I will do all of the word mapping add-ons around all these words. Once I get finished, I'll go through those again with highlighter. And then I come to 9 words. I try and get to 9 words that completely encapsulate the brand. And those ones I do like to get signed off by the client, but I tend to do on the fly in the first presentation. So I've got these 9 words. Now, these 9 words are what I constantly look back at throughout the whole process until I'm finished. So rather than going through the whole brief again, I've done all the distillation from the brief into the word mapping into these 9 words. And so these 9 words should reflect everything that I'm trying to achieve. So I've got these 9 words. Then I start looking at the industry. I start looking at competitors that they've told me about, so that there may be 5, 10 of them. But then I will expand that further into different markets, into different countries who do the same products, or just brands that do different products but the same style of the way they run their business or the tone of voice in a different industry. And I'll pull together a couple of slides looking at their identities, color palettes, their logos, tone of voice, all of that stuff. I'll look at into their audience profiling a little bit. What kind of brands do they resonate with and why? That is more. That's a little briefer. It's a lot shorter, that little process. I don't have access to some of the tools that I used to in advertising, but I know a lot of them. I know a lot of the kind of like traditional things that some of these people resonate with just from that experience. So that's quite a lucky thing that I have from advertising. But so then once I've done some of the industry analysis, I used to do some stuff on color theory, but have since changed my mind on color theory. I think color theory is total bollocks now. I used to think that, don't do a logo that's red if it's for a fishmonger or something, because it should be blue. Like, I think it's absolute horseshit now. Like, it's totally contextual. Like Beats by Dre's red. That doesn't scream like danger or love. Like, the color theory is bullshit. I think it's like something to keep in mind. There may be some things that really are a no-go, but generally speaking, it's all contextual. So I used to do some stuff on that. And I think the reason I used to do that was because I didn't have much belief in my abilities. So I wanted to almost confuse clients with all these silly words about color theory to try and make myself feel better and try and make them think that I'm a professional. And it's nonsense now that I'm able to change my mind on that. And I think that was probably the reason why I was doing it, was to try and have a bit more self-confidence and confuse people, even though I actually don't believe it now. So I used to do a bit of color theory, not anymore. And then I go into initial ideas. Now, initial ideas are super rough, super ugly, really, really quick. And I'm trying to get as many ideas down as possible, really, until I really struggle to think of anything else. And then once I can't think of anything else, I'll go to sleep, wake up the next day, try again. And then once I feel like I've exhausted it, I will go through, highlight key ones I think like, oh, that's got some legs, that could look cool. And then I will take those and do refined sketches of those. So still not anywhere near the computer. I much prefer I'm quite sketch heavy. It's just so much freer and easier to like rub stuff out or trace things or what have you. So we'll take maybe 5, 6 designs that I like, and then I'll start getting rulers out or protractors, compasses or something to refine these sketches further. Take much more time on those. And then by that point, there is one that screams out to me as the best one. Now, this part of my process is where it might be a bit contentious, because some people like to present 3 designs to a client. Some people like Alan Peters likes presenting 15. I present 1. I only present 1. I used to present 3, but I found that it's a lot of information for a client to take in. And often, well, always, there was one that I thought was the best. And if they don't pick the best one, you feel frustrated or annoyed that they haven't picked the one that you think was best. And at the end of the day, my belief is that if someone's hired you to do a job because it's your professionalism, then you should know what the best answer is for their problem. That's your job, is to get to that solution. So you should only present the one that you think hits the brief the best. So I only present one. So I'll go onto the laptop once I've got to the one that I think is the best design, the best idea on paper, and then I'll start refining it, tweaking it, and finalizing it on the computer in Illustrator. Then I'll, pair it with some type, or if it's a logo type, then fine. But pair it with some type, some colors, and then I'll start mocking it up, and industry specific mock-ups, making sure that it's relevant to the client and their industry. And then I'll pull together the presentation, and then everything that I've just gone through is relayed back to the client in almost the same detail that I went through it the first time. So that, if, as I said, so it feels like they're part of the process. So it feels like they're making decisions with me. And then when you get to that final design, when I'm only presenting one, they're like, oh yeah, of course it has to be that, because they have been through that journey with you.
Hmm.
And that is such an easier sale to make on that final mark. It sounds quite ballsy to present just one, but if you show them all of the work that's gone into it, they're like, oh yeah, of course, it can't be anything else, it has to be that. And so, like, my conversion rate on sign-offs on logos is over 90% on one design because of that process. And I'm not saying it's because like my work's particularly better than anyone else. It's because of the process. I think it's about them feeling part of the decisions, and they can ask questions throughout the whole time. You're like, why didn't you consider that? Oh, if you look at this slide, it's because of that. Like, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, I'm with you. And so every single step that you make towards presenting that design, they feel they've made.
Hmm.
So if they were to hate it, it's kind of like contradicting all of the things that they've agreed with before. So
Yeah.
kind of gets a bit funny if you do get to that point. I'm not saying it hasn't happened; it definitely has. But I'm very fortunate in the respect that it's quite rare. I usually get sign off on the first go, but it's because of the process, not necessarily because of the outcome. So yeah.
It's really interesting because I've been dying to talk to someone that only shows one logo at the end of the process, because I've been on both sides of the coin. I've
Mm,
had clients at the very beginning that I show 20 logos and experience what paralysis by analysis was.
mm,
And not just for them, for me, it was
yeah,
really hard. And after that, I lower it down to three options. And ever since, I've been playing with the idea of showing just one. But
mm,
you said something that was really interesting, that is that you let them make the mood board. And
yeah,
even something like that helps them be part of the project. And I
absolutely.
think that's something that not every designer is willing to do, and I definitely haven't done it before. And maybe that's the why uh the conversion rate is so high.
Could be.
And it strikes me because the time that I present only one logo, i I found myself in a position where I was like, okay, this presentation needs to be bulletproof, because
Mm,
I only have one logo to show. I only have one chance. So I need to make this presentation, or this, or the storytelling behind it, or whatever it is that you're gonna present, it needs to be bulletproof.
yeah.
And here's my question to you: is your presentation a certain kind of way? Do you have like a framework, or a way that you make your presentations that help you maybe tell a story, or that help you
Yeah.
throughout the
Well,
process? Or
yeah. Well, it's exactly as I said. Like, it is just going through the process. It's not. I don't do anything fancy. I don't try and create a really elaborate through story through every. Like it. It's so logical. It's just like we both start. The last time we spoke was here at the brief. Now we did this and this and this and this and this and this, and then that's the outcome. And it's like it's as simple as just the way that it works for me is just relaying what I did.
Mhm.
Just relaying what I did, and when you show all of the detail, and also showing the like really horrible sketches as well, like showing the really early parts of the process, it's almost endearing as well. Like it kind of it builds that trust as well, because your client's like, why would you want to show me these really ugly sketches
Mhm.
if you didn't like it kind of creates an endearing like relationship with your client, to like you're putting you're kind of being vulnerable to them, showing them
Mhm.
this the
Mhm.
ugly side of the sketches, and so it kind of endears them towards you. And Yeah, I think that's all. The only reason, that's the only thing I do is just show what I did in the order that I did it, and then hopefully along the way they're like, yeah, of course, yeah, that makes sense. It makes loads of sense. It just follows a really logical path of just started here and
Hmm.
we end here, and I'm showing you everything in between. And you can like ask questions. You can even like argue with me on points or decisions, and that's fine. Like, and it does happen sometimes. I'm
Hmm.
not trying
Hmm.
to. I don't bring that 90% number up to try and like show I'm better than everyone else. I'm really not.
Flex.
It's just I want I just want everyone to uh, know that it's possible if you just like if you the way that you dress up your work
Hmm.
is just as important as the work itself, and the way you present it back to them is just as important. So you can be getting to those 90%. Like I worked with someone at the start of the year who I'm lucky enough to call an online friend now. I haven't met him. He's in Texas, I believe, but start to finish worked with him in 8 days, and uh, he's a designer as well, and so he just really got it, and we just meshed so well, and just everything
That's
just felt
awesome.
like such a partnership. And to get that's why I only took 8 days, because it was just like, makes loads of sense, yeah, cool. And it's like it sounds so easy when you think about it. It's like, of course, yeah, it makes a load of sense to present that way, and I couldn't present another way. There's loads of other designers that do a different way, and that works for them. But to me, this is the only way that I'll do it. I can't see a better way for me.
That's awesome. Um, this is a question probably for the designers that are listening to this. What kind of deliverables can a client expect from you
Hmm.
after you finish the project?
So it really varies on the package. So I have three packages on my site. I have the logo package, which is what comes with that is the logo design, and then also any variation, so different lockups. So if you've got like a vertically stacked or horizontally stacked, or whatever versions there are, you get as many as I come up with. You get all of
Hmm.
those. You also get a usage guide, a one-pager usage guide. So that is just telling you things like exclusion zones or like safety areas or padding to make sure there's no other graphic elements that interrupt the logo. A brief amount of colors, some typography, like logo do's and don'ts. That's really important, because even though you've shown a logo in a certain way, they might be like, "Oh no, but I like it in red." I'm like, no, no. Anyway, basically, the story is just don't touch
Just
the logo.
stretch it a little bit to the
Yeah,
north.
yeah. I want it to be 3D and then like rotated. It's like, no, 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 no. We can't do any of that. You need to make it very clear in the usage guide what you're allowed to do and what you're not
Uh-huh.
allowed to do. And basically, the summary is don't fuck with it.
Yeah.
Leave it. So they come to the usage guide, and then also in the last year or so, I pulled together what I called a files types guide. And for designers, everyone knows like PNGs, SVGs, AI files. A lot of that is completely alien to some of these to our clients.
Hmm.
And so I created this little one page. It was just like, this file does this file does that, this color mode does that, use this color mode for this, use CMYK for
Okay.
print, RGB for whatever. So they have this whole like pack that they can then go away with and put it straight into practice. And obviously, um, in terms of the actual files themselves, so I use Logo. What is it called? Logo Export Express. I can't remember what it's called. Logo Package Express. I think it's called that.
Okay. Okay.
And that's like a plugin for Illustrator. So you just press a couple of buttons and it does all the exports for you. So
Oh,
all the
that's
different color
awesome.
variations, all the different lockup variations, does it all for you really quickly in like 3 minutes. So that will export depending on what you put into the program. You can get. I usually send over SVG files, PNGs. I think that's it, because SVGs cover everything. If you need to edit it, change colors or whatever, PNGs for any use really. You can't. I just don't. I haven't found a usage case where a client really needs a JPEG, because unless for like for example it's like social media display pictures, then you would. But
Hmm. Hmm.
like most of the times you just want to drag and drop a PNG because you're going to put it on a transparent background or whatever. PNGs does the job. So yeah, I think it's just SVGs and PNGs I send. So that's the logo package. And then I have my logo and brand identity package. So that comes with all of the stuff I've already mentioned, along with a set of brand guidelines, which is usually about 30 pages, but it depends on the specific client, what they need, if they need like further detail on social or print or whatever. So generally speaking, it's about 30 pages, and that details everything they need to know about the logo and also the full brand identity. So supporting
Hmm.
color palettes, imagery, typography support, typography pairings, scale of typography, um, applications of type and color and logo, and different variations of all of those together. So that is a super thorough document which they can just pass over to any designer, any other person in the business, and they'll know how to pull together anything for their brand. And then after that, I have my bespoke package, which is basically anything you want. Like that can be, signage, website design, social media, t-shirt design, apparel. It can be anything really within reason, as long as I can do it. I'm not going to like,
Hmm.
so, although sometimes, saying that, it's a good point for any designers listening. If you don't have a skill or have no interest in gaining that skill, like for me, animation, I don't enjoy animation. I'm rubbish at it, but I know really talented animators, and so I still offer that as a service. But I'll just work with my friends to do it,
Hmm.
and it will
Hmm.
still come under the umbrella of my project. But
Hmm.
they'll get paid what they need to get paid,
Yeah.
and the client still get their work. So
Hmm.
you can kind of like white label your work across other designers, and you become a sort of weird pseudo agency,
Yeah.
working with different designers. But so yeah, there are things that I offer that I don't actually do. I'll just get some other people to do it for me. So yeah, so that comes with anything really, whatever you want comes under that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, your logo and your identity has been changing throughout the years.
Mm,
On 2019, it was Jackwork, which I
yeah,
believe it's the initials of your name with the word work.
yeah, that's
On
correct.
2020, you have Shitco with a serif
Hmm.
typeface, which I must admit, I love the C
Yeah,
on the Shitco. It's really lovely.
yeah,
On 2022, you have the cheat code that I actually got to know the
yeah.
most, which is the a more bold, kind of more modern,
I hate,
the
I
detail.
now I hate it.
Really, you really hate that one?
I hate it. I hated
It's
it for so many reasons. Like I did a video before I rebranded start of this year. I did a video going through that process, and I did the thing that I would never do to any other client work. Like I did something that was trend driven. Like
yes,
there was a good
yes,
like 6 month period where everyone liked these deep inkwells
yes. That
on their type.
typeface was really
Yeah,
trendy. Yes.
really trendy, and I was like, oh, I just love it, and I just did it, and it was like stupid. Went out of date in 6 months, and then was embarrassed by it. So I changed it, and I wanted something that is just timeless. Like it's not trendy at all, and it's just really functional. And like now, across social, I mean, like you don't really see my logo that much unless you go on my website. But because my face is kind of my logo
Hmm.
across
Hmm.
social,
Yeah,
because I think. Sorry,
it's
go on.
more of a personal brand kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I do have one, and every logo designer needs to have a logo.
Yes,
Otherwise, who's
yes,
going to trust you to do
yes.
that? So you do need to have one, but it doesn't necessarily needs to be your display picture on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. It can be just on your website, like mine,
Yeah.
or like on email handles and sorry, like email footers and things like that. It doesn't need to be everywhere. Like
Hmm.
my more of my brand identity is in that you see more of is like my typefaces or my color. Like
Hmm.
the green is just
Definitely
everywhere.
the color. Yeah, definitely the color. Which brings us to 2023
Yes, sorry.
and the 2023 rebrand, which
Hmm.
I must admit, my first impression when I saw the two C's, I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh man, it looks too much like Chanel.
Yep.
What happened there?" But then comes the really important part that you said before with the logo of the world of the FIFA World Cup, and
Hmm.
is to understand the reasoning behind it. And after I saw the reasoning of the Venn diagram and
Yeah.
the U the client and how the project works together, I loved it. I was like,
Thank
oh, right in the nail. That's amazing. So
The thing is,
talk to me about it.
I've had to have people be like, it looks like Chanel or it looks like Gucci or whatever, and I really, this is a thing that I struggle with, and I'm sure there's some people who listen to this will also struggle with. Like, it doesn't matter how big you get, or sometimes people can say something and it pisses you off or it hurts
Yeah,
your feelings.
yeah.
And there was a couple of people who said it to me, and I was like, it, it just doesn't. I can understand it has has a resemblance for it. I totally get it,
Hmm.
but I almost like made a post to be like, look, here's it all together. They don't look the same, and like it was so childish, and I'm glad I didn't do it. But
Thank God you
there's
didn't.
definitely like resemblance to those. But the reason being is like they've had hundreds and hundreds, maybe even billions of pounds or dollars spent behind getting that out there. And if
Hmm.
you actually look at them next to each other, there is a resemblance just because they're two like circular letters together. But I totally get the point. But yeah, the idea around it was I wanted it to be really functional, and I wanted it to be super, super simple. And I liked the idea because, as I said a couple times, like relationship and having that partnership with the client is so important to me in the way that I do my business, and I wanted to reflect that in a mark. And so, yeah, having those together kind of created this Venn diagram type thing, and then uh, it was done. I mean, it's so simple. It's so simple. So and I kind of wanted it to be simple and kind of like devoid of any style, so to speak. Just really, really simple, so that I never have to change it again. Because it is working on your own brand is so hard.
Hmm.
To ever be happy with
Yes.
it. It's so hard to ever be happy with it, and
Yeah.
I still feel happy with it now. And so it's past like, well, it's not even 6 months yet, so it could very well change.
Let's give it 6 more months and see.
Once we get the end of the year, we'll see if it's still there. But at the moment, I'm absolutely fine with it. And you know, as I said, like I'm more the logo than, or my
Hmm.
face is more so than that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, I'm
Yeah,
happy with it.
I love it, and I'm actually glad you didn't make a post comparing all of them. That would have
No,
been.
yeah, so childish.
And not only that, I heard this. I've struggled with that kind of feedback before,
Mm,
where I make something and people are comparing it to something that already exists.
mhm,
And someone somewhere said something along these lines, and after he said that, got me to stop worrying about what people think. And he said that people learn and understand through association. So it's
mm,
really hard for people to see something that it's new and
mm.
not associated to something they already know. It's
Ah,
they do it instantly, and that's how they learn, and that's how they understand certain things. That's why when you show something new to a client, the first thing that they're going to say, oh, that looks like fill the blank, or that
mm,
feels like fill the blank. And that's their way of understanding what you're showing to them. So
interesting.
after I heard that, I cooled down and I'm like, okay, people comparing it to something that exists doesn't mean that they don't like it or that they don't appreciate it. That's
Yeah,
just their way of understanding what you're showing to them. And
interesting.
with time, the perception of a logo, of something that you show to a person, changes.
Mm,
I remember the first time that I saw the Instagram change logo from
yeah,
the camera to
yeah,
the gradient. Everyone hated it. I hated it.
yeah,
Gradients. We cannot use gradients for logos. How are you going to print them? They're
yeah.
not going to look good and all of that. You ask anyone today, they love the logo. They
Yeah,
absolutely love
sure.
it.
Yeah,
So,
it's like so much change, isn't it? It's like
yeah, yeah.
people don't like change. I mean, that's why it's also like so hard to do rebrand sometimes. Is they've lived with that logo for years sometimes, and
Yeah.
then you're like, no, we should do it this way, and I'm like, oh, no, but I love the old one.
See?
But it's people generally don't really like change. It seems.
Yeah. Well, Jack, I don't wanna end this interview without first you for without for blah 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 without first for you to tell us what are your goals for you this year? What are your what goals do you have? What are you working on? Do you have something excited for this year that maybe you want to share?
So okay, goals. Well, I want to still be in business is a big one. Um, I want to make sure that's first. That's
That's
paramount.
first.
That's first. So yeah, I want to make sure that I'd like to get to a stage where I feel like comfortable, that I'm
Hmm.
not, scared of when's the next client coming in,
Hmm.
uh, how much they charge. Like, I would like to get to a point of comfortability in maybe not this year, maybe towards the end of next year. I think that's probably more possible. But first protocol is just survive the rest of
Hmm.
this year. Just survive.
Yes.
And then in terms of things that are coming, I've got another big guest coming on Chit Chat
Yes. Let's go.
at the start of June. Unless it falls through, I don't want to jinx it, but um, that's going to be really fun. And then I've also got someone booked after that who's someone that I've been not as big, but is someone that I've been obsessed with since the day that I started design. So that's a selfish one. That's just for me.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So yeah, more chit chats. I'm actually going to go to Adobe Max in London this year. So I've never done like
Okay.
a design meetup thing before, and I'm going to feel very out of place and like I don't really deserve to be there. But I'm going to go there and meet some people maybe, which would be cool. It'd be cool if there's anyone who like follows you that are going and or follows me that's going. I don't know, and see some people. That would be really fun. But yeah, just more projects, man. I hope to win some awards. Would be really cool. Currently haven't won anything, but I've only submitted to stuff that hasn't come out yet. So technically don't know yet. But I hope to like win a logo lounge would be really cool.
That would
Uh,
be cool. Yeah.
so yeah, there's lots of client stuff that I can't really talk about yet. But
Hmm.
yeah, like more chit chats. And more just living the dream, really, and making sure that we don't have to go and work for someone else because I would hate that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You have an online store. Anything you want to promote?
Yeah. Not. I know I don't want to push anything down anyone's throat. If you like stickers or you like mock-ups, check it out. There's also my client questionnaire on there, so
Yes.
that's like what gets filled out for my client briefs, which loads of questions, which hopefully helps the client think about their brand a certain way and maybe a
Hmm.
different light they haven't considered before. So if you're interested in any of that, check it out. If you're not, no hard feelings. I don't want to push
I,
anything down
I
your throat.
I would encourage everyone to check the client brief questionnaire because I think that learning about other people's process and other people's question can help you out learn and grow a lot. And questions are the root to understand the client's problem. So
Absolutely.
the more questions you have and the better questions you have, the better you are capable of solving your client's problem. So
Absolutely.
I would encourage everyone to get that client brief questionnaire. I love that. And let's see. Anything else do you that you think that I miss that you want to talk
Oh,
about, or
hey,
anything that?
an exceptionally thorough conversation, and I think like I mean, I sorry, I speak way too much. I got too
No, man, I
excited.
love it. I love it.
Too excited. But no, mate, thank you so much for having me.
No, thank you.
It's genuinely quite selfishly and maybe like quite narcissistically been a dream of mine to be interviewed one day. So
Well,
thank you for being that person.
I'm glad to be the first.
Thank you. So yeah, mate, I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for your really thorough and thoughtful questions. I really appreciate it.
No,
And
thank you.
I'll speak to you soon. All right.
Okay, thanks for
All
everything,
right.
Jack. See you.
Take care, man. See ya.